This is your daily dose of all things royal.
The simple answer, in my opinion, is social media is wildly out of control and there's too much clickbait in this country. And one of the things I highlighted at Congress in my testimony last week was if we want to protect our youth, we got to get more involved in social media and online platforms, because that's where the folks, the assassins of this world, get radicalized. That's where they're the lone wolf actors in general. And so we have to get after that problem set. And I asked for Congress to help in doing so. But speaking of Charlie Kirk, who was a very dear friend of mine, and then I was tasked with leading the nationwide manhunt to find the perpetrators involved. Of course we were going to use every resource we have to find every single person involved, and the investigation's still ongoing. But we, as one of the pillars of my leadership here at the FBI, is transparency. We've produced more documents to Congress than my last two predecessors combined by twofold. Just to put it in perspective. So when we take our investigations out to the streets, I have the same ethos. And this is how we got Charlie Kirk's assassin, alleged assassin, so fast. The Boston Marathon bomber, which happened in downtown Boston during the Boston Marathon, took 5 days, and there was a police officer who was killed in that manhunt. Luigi Mangione, who allegedly murdered an individual, the CEO of the healthcare company, in downtown Manhattan in broad daylight, took 5 days to find him. Our investigation is very much ongoing. But we've also, Armstrong, in an unusual thing, put out publicly more information as to what we found, because it is of such public importance. The flip side of that is the social media people get involved and they come run with their crazy conspiracy theories because it makes them money. It gives them clickbait. And I don't work for them and I don't respond to them. My duty is to the American people.
Round and round we go. Same shite, different day. Now, just a quick couple of words before I get into the meat of this video. Yeah, I'm actually really disappointed in what I'm seeing coming from Kash Patel. And I don't like where he is headed in wanting to silence people who are challenging the work that he's doing, especially around the Charlie Kirk assassination. Nobody believes that this guy answers to the American people, because it's the American people who are online social media asking questions that he refuses to answer. And here he is sitting on his high horse, putting down all the people who are doing the FBI's fucking job in this investigation, like Candace Owens. America is so fed up having to sit there and be lied to time and time again, especially when it comes to these major events. Kash Patel has not been transparent with this Charlie Kirk case. They've given us no evidence, no autopsy. The whole entire crime scene, remember, had been tampered with. But we're supposed to believe that this guy that they have in custody is the assassin. That's the narrative that the FBI and the mainstream media, who are all in bed together, have been forcing down our throats. This is why they are going so hard after social media, is because they do not want people to ask any more questions and to accept what they're telling us. Even though there are so many questions that Americans have, they do not want you having that dialogue and discussion, because God forbid we actually get to the truth. And it feels all too familiar because we went through this with Meghan Markle and those pregnancies. They didn't want you asking any questions. They shut people up. They went after us. They used the media to spin and gaslight and tell lies, and we were supposed to just accept it. Same thing going on here. They don't want you to trust what your instinct tells you or what you're seeing with your own eyes. They want you to trust what they're telling you, which in this case with Charlie Kirk, they want you to believe that Charlie Kirk was hit from the front. Now, I'm not a gun expert, but looking at the video, just natural instinct tells me that either he was hit to the side or to the back, because if he was hit from the front, I would have thought on impact it would have been more messy, as well as his head would have went in a different direction. But this is the official narrative of what the FBI is trying to sell the public on, which so many are not buying it, including one gentleman who is an enemy of Christopher Boozy, but a friend of the Royal Grift, Jason Goodman. Yesterday, he was on Redacted, which is another YouTube channel who has been covering this extensively and also asking a lot of the same questions. Jason also had the same logic and gut feeling about Charlie Kirk being shot from behind. And on yesterday's video, he walks through showing in a very deep and detailed analysis of where the bullet might have came from and entered Charlie Kirk. And what he's saying is that he suspects that the bullet went into the base of his neck. That is in line with what I see myself in one of the videos, where you see before Charlie actually gets hit, his shirt in the back puffs up first before the actual front zigzag that we see, that thinking that he was hit from the front. Now, this is just one frame where you see the back of the shirt before Charlie is hit, almost like the wind puffs it up real quick because it's so fast. And the short that I put out a couple days ago showing the X-ray version of this, where you can actually see the bullet flying in, does look like it's on an angle to hit through the base of the neck and out through the left side of the throat. Now, this is where they want us to believe that the gunman was to shoot Charlie from the front. That's if you believe the FBI and the mainstream media's narrative on where the shooter was when they shot Charlie Kirk. Now, Jason raised the question, if Charlie was shot from behind, where would the shooter have been placed? And his theory is that possibly the shooter had been standing right through this tunnel on the side wall, where you see this guy who everybody is suspicious as to how come he was standing there so calmly filming Charlie Kirk being rushed off to the hospital. That would have made the most sense, but unfortunately, there's no line of sight to the angle to get Charlie. And it's not like it hit the tent, because we would have seen the tent move in some way being hit by a bullet. You see, there's no line of sight in that tunnel. But you know what is in line of sight of that tunnel and Charlie? A dark van. I don't know if anybody has talked about this yet, but in the beginning when this happened, there was a video that now I can't find anywhere of Charlie having his last debate with Hunter Kozak.
Too many.
Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you. You know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not?
Yes, if you now caught this, right as Hunter Kozak is saying his last question, you see the back of the trunk of this minivan pop on open. Now, it is interesting that the security guard turns his head in that direction, almost as if he hears the trunk pop open, and he steps forward, almost as if to clear a path.
You know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not?
Now you can see that there's two people standing there by this van, one with a hat, another one who is a cameraman, and you can see it in a different angle. Now I put this on X-ray so we could see what appears to be, to me, the bullet. Obviously I slowed it down because it is so fast. Who knows, but the trajectory does align with Charlie in the final dot or mark that we see right there before he gets hit. As for the trunk of the car, it went down immediately, and we know so because you see the car here. You see that Charlie just fell to the ground and everybody is scattering. Now what I notice here with this van is that the windows are very tinted, as well as the front seat windows are down. Now, the car's not running, and if there was someone sitting in the trunk of that car, it would make sense that the windows would be down to get some air into the van, waiting to do whatever they were planning to do or have done. I'm just putting that out there. If, indeed, this is where the bullet came from, that would make total sense, right? There is a line of sight with that trunk. Now, what's interesting is how busy, before the shooting, a couple of helpers were with that van. Watch the tall kid with the hat pushing the trunk down. This kid never left the side of this van. You see him right there in the back, not moving while everyone is running away. What's he doing? You can see him there in the back, almost as if he's like watching over this van while you've got people rummaging through the van. Like, what the heck do you think is going on there? It could be something or it could be nothing, but I think it should be explored. Like, I don't know why we've lost the mentality that everybody is a suspect. We shouldn't be offended if we're pointing things out. Everybody should be questioned. Now, this last part of the video, I need to give a warning. It is sensitive content, so if you are squeamish or don't want to see anything disturbing, please turn off now. I do feel it's important to show this part, and you'll understand in a second. Now, what bugs me to bits about this whole entire thing is how the security guards reacted, especially the one that was closest to Charlie with the Ray-Bans that was taking photos. What bothered me about this was how casual the one with the Ray-Bans was in running to protect his client. What struck me as odd is that none of them reached for a weapon except for one. Did they know that there was only going to be one shot? What if there was a mass shooter on the campus? All of them jumped over the table, and I found it very disturbing how these men handled Charlie to get him to the car. They shouldn't have moved him. His injury was in his neck, and there is his neck flopping all over the place, and they didn't even do anything to stop the bleeding. Like, no one took off their shirt. No one applied pressure. I mean, this is like basic kindergarten stuff that they teach you. These are security guards that should have gone through some type of first aid training, and they should have never moved him and waited until some type of medical got there. Like, I'm pretty sure the campus could have had medical assistance there in a shorter time than it took for them to drive Charlie to this hospital that was not even the closest one. Now, the other question that I have is, who else went to the hospital with Charlie? We know that Frank, his friend, was there with him going to the hospital, but who drove and who made the decision to go to this hospital that was farther than the nearest hospital? Look, I get the argument that they wanted to get to the hospital as quick as possible. However, this was not like a gunshot to the stomach. This was a gunshot to the neck, of which I think anybody could see was a critical situation. Why would you move him violently like this? Now, looking at the bodyguards that stayed back, there are two missing, and those two happen to be the ones that I put in question, especially the one with the Ray-Bans. What I find really interesting about this security company that was used for Charlie's protection, from what I read online, I could be wrong about this, ended up getting hired to do the security for the Charlie Kirk Memorial in Arizona. Make that make sense. Now, again, this is just my opinion, but the whole thing reeks like a cover-up. And I think they told us that he got shot in the front, knowing full well he was shot from behind to throw everybody off the scent. I truly believe that, because nothing that they have put forward makes any kind of sense. And when you see the whole media machine in play, you recognize it's the same media machine that is behind the woman that we're told to call Meghan Markle. And when you start seeing TMZ getting first dibs at photos and video of shooter when it should have gone to the FBI, and then you see all the state-controlled media outlets like the BBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, all interested in this story and talking about how social media radicalized this guy to go ahead and do this to Charlie Kirk, it then starts to raise red flags, because we've seen this story before with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry and how they weaponize the media to drive censorship. I get this feeling that this is a similar situation, and the end goal is really to clamp down on social media, but now trying to get the right on board with this thinking. The really concerning thing about what Kash Patel said in the beginning of this video is his position on getting more involved with social media because of the so-called radicalization of the youth. Now, my final thought that I want to leave you on here that I find truly concerning is what Kash Patel said at the beginning of this video, which was getting more involved with social media, and is in support of the laws that the Senate is trying to push through, such as the KOSA bill. In other words, Kash is telling us that he wants business as usual, but to be able to do it lawfully. Because remember, in the past 4 years with the Biden regime, the FBI was caught colluding with the social media companies to censor Americans. This is a huge, huge red flag for me. And, I'm going to be watching to see how this progresses. But I think part of the whole narrative with Charlie Kirk is to do exactly that, which is to have the excuse to push this legislation through. Now, sadly, what I'm seeing here is that the same dark forces that are backing Harry and Meghan appear to be the same dark forces that have pulled off this assassination. The question is, who exactly pulled the trigger? That's the key question. I don't think it was Tyler Robinson, and I don't think that the shot came from the front. I definitely think now it came from the back. What would be helpful is if they would release the surveillance video that you see from this camera that is right in this little tunnel thing. Now, if they could release that and we see, maybe we can clear up and eliminate the possibility that someone was in that trunk and fired and then immediately ducked down and laid low until the coast was clear. I think that is a possibility. Just my opinion. The likelihood of getting this camera footage is probably really low. I'm sure the university will have some excuse as to why they don't have footage from that camera. Either the camera broke or they ended up deleting that file for that day. I'm not going to hold my breath on this one, but I do think that that camera is extremely important. But what do you guys think? Do you think Charlie was shot in the back? Do you think Charlie was shot from the front? Or do you think Charlie was shot elsewhere? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
Such a fraud.